Hey guys, it's Marshall Mathers the fourth here, back to you today with another video. And in today's video, this will be a part 2 or follow-up to my video, I wish cities would have never existed. And let me be perfectly clear about something here. When I say that I wish cities would have never existed, I am specifically talking about big cities. The most popular, overrated cities in this bullshit, goddamn, god-forsaken, fucked up country of America. Like cities like New York, like Los Angeles, Chicago, Grand Rapids, Detroit, Lansing, Muskegon, Kalamazoo, cities like Miami, Florida, cities like Atlanta, Georgia, Houston, Texas, and so on and so forth. I'm talking about big cities here, obviously. Big cities that I myself would have loved more than anything to have been raised in myself. And I wish I could have had the experience of being raised in a big city since I was a little kid. But did I have that chance? Did I have that privilege growing up? Absolutely fucking not. I didn't at all. No thanks to my parents, who never thought to themselves, you know what? I would like to live in a big city. I really would like to live in a big city, and I would love to raise our children in a big city. Because after all, at least when they grow up, they'll have so many job opportunities to choose from when they start coming into their teens that I'm sure they'll be really looking forward to. And here's another point I want to make in this video, is that I know big cities are not heaven on earth, or in other words, paradise on earth. And I know unless certain people living in big cities are crazy, insane rich, they're probably not going to be living on cloud 9. And I know that. And you know, in my defense, I never said that big cities were heaven on earth. I never said they were paradise on earth. I never said that. And I feel like so many people just assumed that, or got that intention or feeling or idea from me watching my videos about like how much I hate big cities and how much I literally wish more than anything they would have never existed, that they would have never been created in the first place, that they would have never been thought of, that whoever the fuck had the idea in the first place would not have had that idea. And here's the thing. You know, the reason why I'm so jealous and envious of people who got to be raised in big cities in this country of America is because of two reasons in specific. The first being that anyone who is lucky, blessed, fortunate, privileged, spoiled enough of being raised in a big city, regardless of their skin color or race, in other words, are going to get to experience something so wonderful growing up, even since they're little children. They're going to get very used to this thing, very familiar with it, and just very normal to it because of experiencing it for so many years in their life, growing up since they're kids up into their adulthood. And what am I talking about exactly here? Diversity. Something that I myself personally was robbed and deprived of ever experiencing myself growing up as a little kid or at least a teenager. Something that I literally missed out on, that I was excluded from, isolated from, alienated from ever experiencing, getting used to, getting familiar with, getting normal to myself. And now it is too late, because when it comes to other races of people, if I'm going to be honest and real here, when it comes to Black Americans, Mexican Americans, Asian Americans, Muslim Americans, Indian Americans, Native Americans, or even immigrants who come over to this country and of course and obviously choose to live in big cities, I think of those people as aliens. I think of those people as a completely and totally different species entirely. Like, I think of those groups of people as not even human beings, as not even people. You know why? Because I never fucking got used to other races of people like I have white people, my own race, my own kind, my own people. The only race I ever knew, got used to, got familiar with, got normal to, and that I was surrounded by a lot growing up as a child and teenager myself in my life personally. I never got to experience diversity, unlike the millions of punk, bitch-ass, pussy, faggot white people who got the unfair advantage to me of being raised in big cities where, of course and obviously, most diversity is, and that is a fact. Like, when it comes to most minorities in America, or even immigrants who are able to come over to America, they live in big cities. The majority of them do. And it's just so unfair. I never got to experience that growing up myself, compared to all those white people who have. That just piss me off. That I just hate to death. That I'm extremely jealous and envious of here. And none of you could ever understand my pain. You know why? Because you yourselves were not deprived and underprivileged of being raised in a big city. You weren't deprived and robbed of experiencing diversity growing up since you were a little kid yourself. Or should I say little kids. And you were not deprived and robbed of having a shitload of opportunities to choose from when you grew up and came into your teen years. Like the little pricks you are. And, the reason why I'm so jealous and envious of all people, regardless of your race or skin color, in other words, who got to be raised in big cities in America, are one, because all of you got to get used to and familiar with experiencing diversity growing up since you were little kids and teens and up into your adulthood, of course. And you also pretty much got to look forward to and to be really excited about having so many endless amounts of job opportunities when you grew up and started coming into your teens, which is so unfair to me. Two things I was deprived and robbed of growing up. Two things: experiencing and getting used to and familiar with diversity, and as a teenager having just countless of job opportunities to choose from. Two things I missed out on. Two things that I was excluded from ever experiencing in my life growing up. And now I'm almost 24 years old and I still haven't experienced that. And do you really think I'm going to still want to experience diversity at this point in time in my life? Do you really think I'm still going to long and desire and crave the experience of being able to experience diversity? or live in a big city? No. No, I'm not, because it's too fucking late. And why would I still want, desire, crave, and long for, and yearn for things in which caused me so much pain, suffering, agony, anguish, torment, torture, crippling depression, stress, suicidal thoughts, anger, hatred, jealousy, envy? Like, ask yourself that. Take a step back and just for a minute, even for a second, ask yourself, why would I still want to live in a big city? Why would I still want to be with Black Americans? Knowing those two things in specific caused me this much pain to the extent I just described a little while ago. And, you know, I just honestly can't stand and am so annoyed and irritated with white people, white Americans, who got to experience and get used to and familiar with experiencing diversity growing up since they were kids and teenagers up into their adulthood. Being able to interact with minorities and immigrants, make friends with them, be surrounded by them at the schools they would have gone to, and maybe even just when walking in a city or going anywhere, that they would have been in the physical presence of many minorities and possibly immigrants, and just getting really used to and familiar with that sort of life and experience themselves growing up compared to someone like me. And you know, I honest to God don't want to go to or live in a big city anymore in my life. I fucking hate big cities. I hate them so fucking much. More than any of you could ever know or understand yourselves. And I also do not want to be with Black Americans. I honestly don't even want to meet them anymore. I don't want to interact with them. I don't want to be friends with them. I want to have absolutely, positively nothing to do with those people. Or Mexican Americans, or Asian Americans, or Indian Americans, or Muslim Americans, or even Native Americans. I don't want anything to do with any of you. I want to get as far away from you people as I possibly can. And if I'm ever able to move out of my parents' house, God willing, I'm only going to live in a small town, or probably just get further and deeper into a rural area in the middle of nowhere, and just live alone in isolation and be an introvert, and to be just a freak, a lonely freak, just like I have been my whole fucking life. Because of how much I've been deprived of, underprivileged of, robbed of, excluded of, missed out on, kept from ever having or experiencing growing up in my life. I mean, honestly, I would not expect a black person who really wanted to interact with and experience white people to still want to interact with them and experience them and be with them, if them longing and desiring and craving to be with white people for so long caused them so much pain, so many years of pain and suffering. I would not expect that black person to still want to be with white people. And I would totally respect and understand a black person's decision to want to not have anything to do with white people at all whatsoever. I would not blame or judge a black person like that. I would totally understand the way they feel. And I would respect their decision and opinion. I would respect their choice. And, you know, since I was a teenager, I would look forward to going to big cities. And the only big city that I really ever went to that much growing up as a child or teenager, because I have some family who lives there, was Grand Rapids in the state of Michigan. And it pisses me the fuck off that out of any big city, anywhere in the state of Michigan, that I wasn't at least, at the very minimum, raised in since I was a little kid. Being Grand Rapids, that I wasn't even raised in that city. And when it comes to Michigan, the only black Americans that live in this state live in cities like Grand Rapids, Detroit, obviously being like 90% black, Muskegon, Michigan, Kalamazoo, Michigan, and of course, Lansing, Michigan. But in Lakeview, Michigan, Greenville, Michigan, Gowan, Michigan, any rural areas in Michigan pretty much, and especially small towns, Belding, Michigan, Greenville, Michigan, Gowan, Michigan, or Lakeview, Michigan, or whatever, there are no black people. There are no Mexican people, no Asian people, no Muslim people, no Indian people, no Native American people, because the majority of you all love the shit out of big cities. You love the opportunities. You love the diversity. You love the culture, the lifestyle, the environment, the people, places, and things. The city lights at night. You just love it all. You just soak it all up. Just absorb it all up. And you just become all prideful and boastful and proud and love to brag and show off the fact that, oh, you got to just so happen to be raised in a big city. Well, good for you. Good for fucking you. Getting to have an experience that I myself never did. And you know, it's not just like, oh, living in big cities will allow people to experience diversity and when they come into their teens, be able to have a lot of job opportunities to choose from. It's not just like those two things are the best about big cities. You know what also is the best? The fact that everything is so close together. Everything is in walking distance. Hell, you don't even need a bike, and you sure as hell don't even need a vehicle. Like, if you're someone who has a job in a big city, well, guess what? You could walk to your job. You could bike to it. You don't even need to use your car or whatever other vehicle you have that much or that often. The only reason I could understand someone having to use a vehicle is if they're going to get groceries and they need obviously something to put the groceries in, being like a vehicle, like in the trunk or in the back seat or something. Or if it's like super fucking cold out and too cold to like bike or walk, and if you live in a state where it snows, then I could understand somebody, of course, needing to use their vehicle in a time like that. Or if it's like, say, way too hot and you need like a place to have an air-conditioned car, like I could understand that. But if the weather's just right, you should walk. You should bike to your job. Walk or bike to your friend's house. Walk or bike to school, to the library, all that good shit. And, you know what big cities also have that is just such a great thing? They have zoos. Something I loved growing up so much since I was a little kid and teenager. I loved going to Grand Rapids and going to the John Ball Zoo. That was one of my all-time favorite things to do. Of course, when I started coming into my teens, it became way more painful and torturing and tormenting of a feeling to have to go there. Why? Because when I would go there, I would see all these men who had girlfriends or wives that I would just be so envious of and so jealous of and hate and be so angry at. Especially if their girlfriend or wife was a fine-ass looking woman and just looked so damn good looking and attractive, so hot, so beautiful, so gorgeous, so cute, so pretty, whatever. And knowing that all throughout my teens, I never had a girlfriend, never had anything close to a girlfriend. Something I also missed out on having and experiencing growing up as a teenager compared to most other people. And something I was excluded from, robbed of, deprived of, underprivileged of, that I missed out on, that I was alienated from ever having or experiencing myself. And you know, so I slowly and gradually began to hate going to the zoo, because all I would ever see when going to the zoo would be guy after guy after guy after guy after guy after guy who had a girlfriend or wife, maybe even had children of their own. And you know what? It kind of reminded me of, in a way, of when I used to be in high school. Seeing every guy in my high school, my old high school, who had a girlfriend, except me. I was the only guy in the whole school, whole entire school, who did not have a girlfriend. I didn't even get close to having one. And it's just like, for any guy who's ever had a girlfriend, who had a wife, who had so much sex growing up in their teens, you don't know how the fuck it feels to go without that for so long, to long for that, to desire that, to crave that, to want that, to wish for that, to yearn for that, to lose nights over sleep because you can't stop thinking about either a girl you want to have so bad or just girls you wish you had in general, or just girls in general. Like, you don't know how it feels, so don't try to act or pretend like you do, or that you understand a man's pain and suffering who doesn't have one. And you know, I also want to say, and I want to kind of backtrack a bit with also talking about what I was talking about earlier in this video, when I said that when I think of Black Americans, Mexican Americans, Asian Americans, Muslim Americans, Indian Americans, Native Americans, or other immigrants who come into this country as aliens, as a completely and totally different species entirely of something, as not even human or people, in other words, you know, when you understand and you consider the kind of family I was born into, the kind of parents I was born to, the kind of environment I was raised in, where I didn't get to experience, get used to, and get familiar with, and get normal to being around and being surrounded by minorities and immigrants a fuck ton. Like so many other millions of people in this country. And when you also consider and keep in mind that we grew up so many miles apart from each other, miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles apart from each other, so far apart from each other. We're from different sides of the spectrum. We're opposite sides of the spectrum. We're from completely and totally different environments and cultures and lifestyles growing up ourselves. compared to each other. And in a way, if you think about it, it's like, and it's as if we grew up on different fucking planets. I mean, if you actually think about it in a really deep way that I do myself, people who don't get to experience diversity and who are only around and surrounded by their own people, their own race, their own kind, like so much, it gets boring. It gets dull. 'Cause it's like, show me something new. Show me something different. Show me something I'm not used to. Like a breath of fresh air, for example. And that's why I just envy and am so damn jealous of especially white people who got to experience diversity growing up. Getting so used to it, getting so familiar with it, getting so normal to it, whereas I myself think of minorities and immigrants as aliens, as a different species of something entirely, as not even human beings or people for that matter. I honest to God don't think of you people as people or human beings. I don't think of you like, I don't know. I don't think of you in that context. I think of you as aliens. I think of you guys as different species. Because now when I go to big cities and I see Black Americans, Asian Americans, Mexican Americans, Muslim Americans, Indian Americans, or Native Americans, I feel so uneasy on the inside. I'm cringing constantly. Like, even just seeing them and looking at them, I feel so weird and strange and odd on the inside. I feel like something's not right. Like, I don't even feel worthy to be in your physical presence anymore. Because I am not used to any of you. I'm not familiar with any of you like I am and have been white people. And like I said, if you think about it, it is as if we grew up on different planets. It is as if we have. I just feel so uneasy. I feel stressed out. I feel uncomfortable. And I just start cringing. All those feelings I feel to such an extreme extent when I'm ever in the physical presence of Black people, which I hardly ever am, Mexican Americans, Asian Americans, Indian Americans, Muslim Americans, Native Americans, any of you guys. I feel uneasy. I feel uncomfortable. I feel stressed out. I start cringing like crazy on the inside because I'm not used to any of you. I'm not familiar with any of you. I didn't experience any of you people growing up since I was a little kid, or at least a teenager. And you know, one of the saddest things I'll probably say in this video, most heartbreaking things, and also probably kind of weird. When I was a teenager, and when I would go to Grand Rapids with either of my parents, my mom or dad or both, and I would look out the window as a teenager, as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 19-year-old, and I would look out the window and I would just observe all the Black Americans that I could. It's not like that many of them knew that I was looking at them, that I was even staring at them, that I was observing them, or like studying them in a weird way or whatever, because I was so interested in them, so fascinated in them, so intrigued by their race and their culture, and their personality, their behavior, their characteristics. I yearned so much and so hard to be with them. I desired to be with them. I craved to be with them. And as a teenager, I wanted to be with them so desperately badly to the point I thought of even jumping out of a moving car. Which is really fucking weird, obviously. And I would see them for an extended period of time, but obviously from inside a moving vehicle. And I would just want to jump out, even if I got scraped up, beat up, even wounded, maybe even got broken bones or something. Just crawling to Black Americans because of how badly I wanted to be with their kind. How badly I wanted to be with those people of that race, of that group, of that culture. But I didn't, obviously, I didn't do that. But I had thoughts about doing so. And it was so painful, even as a teenager, for me to see them, even just from inside a moving vehicle, which was pretty much the closest thing I ever had to experiencing diversity, if you will, even though I didn't actually interact with them or talk to them or even wave at them or whatever to try to get their attention. I only saw them for a brief moment from inside of a vehicle. And I just thought to myself as a teenager, man, they're so cool. Man, they're so awesome. Man, they're so dope. Man, they're so awesome. They're so interesting. They're so fascinating. There's something just different about them than compared to most other races of people. And yet I never got to be with them. I never got to grow up in a community with them, in an environment with them. I never got to go to school with them, go to church with them, work at a job with them. I never interacted with them really ever that much. And now it's just too late. And now I honestly just hate them. And I'm so angry at them because of feeling like they have caused me so much pain and suffering without realizing it. Which is really bizarre about me, but that's just the way that I honestly feel. Seriously. And, one of the most strange things about me, but I guess also kind of interesting, anything that I want or wish to have or long for or yearn for in life, if I go long enough without it, I start hating it. I start being angry at it. So in this case, for so many years, I longed and yearned to live in a big city. And then I began to hate big cities. All of them, even ones that I never got to live in. Because I never got to be raised in any big city, and I never got to go to other big cities, like traveling or whatever. Like so many Black Americans get to do, and other people of other races. Unlike me. They have the chance to do that. They have the opportunity. They have that experience. And I wanted so long to be with Black people. But I didn't ever get that in my life. I didn't ever have that experience. So I slowly, over time, over a certain amount of years, began to gradually and eventually hate them and be angry at them. And just like materialistic things like For so long I wanted gaming consoles and video games, and even more so, gaming computers and video games on a gaming computer. And I went so many years without it. So many days, weeks, months, and years of wishing I had gaming computers and video games. Losing nights of sleep thinking about it so much, to such an extreme extent, and I never had it, so I began to slowly and gradually and eventually hate the fucking shit out of gaming computers and video games and anyone who has them in their teens, and wishing they would have never existed. Same with gaming consoles and the video games on them. Same with minorities and immigrants. Same with big cities. I just gradually, over many years though, it's not like it just happened all of a sudden. It happened over a period of time. Years. It happened over years. I wanted so many things in life. I wanted to be raised in a big city. I wanted to be raised in a black community. I wanted to be raised in a black neighborhood, go to black schools, black churches. I wanted to be able to work in a city or even state with as many black Americans as possible and get so very used to them, so familiar and so normal to them, from interacting with them a lot, making friends with as many of them as I could, being in the physical presence of them as much as I would have been if I would have been raised in a big city somewhere in some state. But I wasn't. I never had that chance. I never had that experience. I never had that privilege that so many other people get compared to me. I wanted to be able to look forward to having a lot of jobs growing up in my teens, like having a lot of jobs to choose from or whatever. And, you know, obviously there are bad things about big cities, but you know what? There are also good things about them. There are pros about them and there are cons about them. And I don't deny the cons of them at all, one bit. I don't deny that there are awful things about them, horrible, terrible things about big cities. But I also can't act or pretend like there's not a lot of pros about them, which there most definitely are. And, you know, I guess rural places have pros and cons too, but when it comes down to it, I would say big cities overall have way more pros than compared to living in a rural area or living in a small, medium-sized town. And you know, I don't know, like when I think of big cities, I just always think to myself, there's always something going on in them. There's always something exciting happening. And I don't mean exciting as in like good or bad. I just mean that there's always something happening in them. Like there's a lot of community gatherings in big cities. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of socializing. There's a lot of interaction. There's so many buildings and businesses and skyscrapers and houses and streets and sidewalks. There's just so much to explore and to get used to, get familiar with, and get normal to when you get to be raised in a big city. But I never had that growing up in my life. And you know, As you can tell, I'm pissed. I'm vengeful towards people who got to be raised in big cities. I'm jealous and envious of them. I hate them. I'm angry at them. And you know what? I would never, ever want to be friends with people who got to be raised in big cities. Never. Not at all. Because you don't realize or understand how much pain and suffering you caused me living there and having more privileges and opportunities and experiences than compared to me. And you don't know how much pain and suffering big cities even existing in the first place have caused me or brought on to me. And you know, one thing that really irritates me and annoys me is that so many rappers in Hollywood, specifically the black ones, they always have to rep the city they're from. And even if there's a city they're not from, they still kind of shout it out. Like, they always shout out big cities. They don't shout out towns or rural areas. They shout out big cities because black Americans, especially rappers, have so much admiration for cities. City environment, city lifestyle, city culture, all that. They idolize it. They're addicted to it. They're obsessed with it. They get all prideful from it. They get it, like, they just absorb it all, just soak it all in. They love to brag about it, show it off, boast about it. Every chance that they get, it just drives me insane. Because I never got to experience that growing up. And you know what? Ask yourself this. Why the fuck would I ever want to move to any big city now, knowing that for so many years I wanted to, but I wasn't able to? And the amount of pain and suffering that big cities even existing have caused me. And also, why would I want to experience diversity? Why would I want to go be with black Americans now more than ever? Why would I want to be with them? Why would I want to experience them and interact with them? Why would I want to even experience and interact with and get familiar with and used to other minorities or immigrants, most of which who live in big cities? Why? Knowing that they got to live in them for such a long time. Why would I want to go to big cities? Why would I still love big cities? I hate them. I wish they never existed. And if you're someone who got to be raised in one, you could never understand the pain, the suffering, the torment, the torture, the agony, the crippling depression, the stress, the jealousy, envy, anger, and hatred that big cities existing caused me to have growing up as a teenager. And that minorities and immigrants have caused me because I never got to experience diversity growing up as a little child, little kid, and just getting really used to them, really familiar with them, really normal to them, because now it's too late. And now I just either want to move further and deeper into a rural area, into the middle of nowhere, or if I move to a small town, an all-white one, or at least predominantly white one, and there are plenty of them in the state of Michigan. Because I am done. I've had it with big cities. I've had it with minorities. I've had it with immigrants. All those things I never got to experience, that have caused me so much pain and suffering ever since I was a teenager, because of how long I yearned for them and wanted them and wished to have them and craved them and desired them, and it just, over time, slowly and gradually, drove me crazy, made me evolve into a freak. As you can clearly and obviously tell and see, that I am nothing more than a freak, because of all that I have been deprived and underprivileged of, all that I have been robbed of, all that I have missed out on, been excluded from, been alienated from, been isolated from, being kept and prevented from. It turned me into like practically a monster. And I just want to get away from people. I just want to have as little interaction with people as possible, even only being white people. But let me know what you all think in the comment section down below. I'm out.